To unpack this a bit more further, we are now joined by CEO of the Organization of Undoing Tax Abuse, so Wayne Duvenage, and he joins us via our Zoom line. Wayne, thank you so much for joining us here on the late edition. Of course, we now know that the AARTO Act is expected to go ahead. The Department of Transport has asked for 18 months to, of course, finally bring this on board. Do you think that this is a deadline they will be able, to achieve?
Well, they should be able to achieve it very quickly because they've been in test mode for 14 years or 13 years. I don't know why it's taking them another 18 months. But that aside, as you heard, there's 65 municipalities first. There's over 235 in total. And what we can tell you is that despite the Concord ruling that it is constitutional, and that's fine from a demerit point system, but from a revenue collection system for municipalities who want to retain their own revenue collection, it's not going to happen for the RTIA. So City of Cape Town, George, those well-run municipalities, as we can see by the Auditor General's financial reports, they are not going to relinquish their revenue collection process to the RTIA. I can assure you of that. So I don't know how they're going to get across that impasse. They're going to have to find another solution that will allow those cities to run their own collection processes and enter the demerit point system or the traffic fines for the demerit point system. So it's going to be a bit of an administrative nightmare. And I think we see a bit of deja vu here. This is similar to the e-toll matter when the court said that SANRAL could go ahead and launch e-tolls. And we said, fine, if you think that, when you make a law, everything else falls into place, well, let's watch this space. And the same thing's happening here with AARTO. E-tolls failed, the AARTO scheme will fail.
And aside from the issues of revenue collections, what are your other major concerns when it comes to the AARTO Act?
Well, it's the administrative process. As we said, and as you heard Leighton Beard from the AA saying, it's not just about having the laws there and thinking that it's going to fall into place. The whole collection process, not everybody, they say they can serve traffic fines by email. Well, tell me how many people driving vehicles have email addresses, taxis. Not everybody has email addresses. Email addresses, people move on. They don't keep their same email addresses. If they don't get their traffic fines, what happens? And they cannot participate in the discounts that happen within 30 days. The entire process of getting traffic fines into people's awareness that they are there is going to be a big challenge. And then what you're going to find is people getting to renew their licenses, and they'll find out for the first time that they've got demerit points, possibly all of them used up, no license to do their work with. There might be drivers, there might be sales reps. So just administratively, you need an accurate NATA system. You need a good postal service system because you still got to get these fines to people who don't have email addresses. And outside of all of that, and these were the same problems that the e-toll matter had, they require these processes to be in, these efficiencies to be in place, and they don't have them. So that's the real issue. We're not opposed to a demerit point system, and we're not opposed to the fact that people need to be fined if they are found wanting and breaking the law on the roads. It's just how it's administered. So we just can't see it being an efficient process. And the minute you have gross inefficiency in matters of this nature, they tend to collapse over time.
And it does bring me to the fact that, one would say that your continued disapproval of the AARTO Act, one would try and say that you're against the entire system of holding drivers actually accountable, for road infringements.
Yeah, that's not the case. I mean, people must drive properly. They shouldn't be getting traffic fines. The law enforcement needs to take its place. But as you heard the AA saying, we need more visible policing. I've always said that South Africa is one of those countries where you can drive an unroadworthy car without a driver's license, without a vehicle license, and probably never get caught. These are real issues. And I must also add that it's not just AARTO. The AA, the Automobile Association, the Road Freight Association, the Vehicle Renting Association. All of these associations are very concerned about this. It's not because they just dream up these schemes that this isn't going to work. We had a workshop because the RTIA, when they're doing their public engagement process on this, were doing it very meaninglessly. So we had a workshop with large fleet owners, stakeholders, and we invited the AA to attend, the RTIA, to attend this workshop to hear the concerns we had. And they initially indicated they would join us, and the day before we had our workshop, they declined and didn't arrive. This is arrogance. This is a government organization that thinks it knows better, that it doesn't need input from civil society. So, let's watch the space. I mean, we're not here to fight. We're here to find solutions with them. And if they want to forge ahead on something that is grossly irrational, grossly inefficient, then they must go ahead. But, government starts to suffer a crisis of legitimacy when it cannot manage its own processes and laws. And that's what's going to happen here, as it happened on the ETOL scheme.
And, when you look at the system, one would also ask that, are you concerned about corruption also coming to the fore here? And I'm asking this because a lot of motorists will try to avoid to get these demerits so that it will ultimately lead, to their licenses being suspended.
Yeah, look, I mean, this gives a lot more leverage to the traffic police, doesn't it? So if you've got a couple more points to go and you're about to lose your license, you can imagine the bribery and corruption that takes place at traffic stops, as it has happened, as it continues to happen now, and this will exacerbate that problem and make it worse. So, yeah, it doesn't bode well for the corruption element that's going to get worse.
And we also told that, the reason why we see the AARTO Act is, of course, to curb road fatalities. We continue to see the rise in, carnage on the roads when it comes to those who are not abiding by the rules of the road. Do you believe that, this will actually curb road fatalities in the country?
Not at all. We have about 14,000 deaths on the road. By just introducing this scheme, it doesn't change anything. As we saw, the AARTO Act was piloted for 12 to 13 years in Tshwane and Joburg. It made no difference whatsoever. For Fikile and Belula, who tweeted that this is going to be the panacea, this is going to be the silver bullet that takes road carnage off the roads, I'm afraid it isn't. Do you think that the taxis and people who drive recklessly are going to be caught because there is no visible policing or very insufficient visible policing? It doesn't change matters. We need visible policing. Otherwise, you are going to have unroadworthy vehicles on the road. You're going to have people driving without licenses and vehicles without licenses and, putting up camera traps all over the place and thinking that the RTIA's new process is going to change that. I think they're dreaming.